Welcome everyone, this is Viking, and today we're going to take a look at countermeasures in the Viggen. Now, as you're probably aware, there's no internal jammer or chaff or flare pods for the Viggen. They have to be mounted externally. On the right-hand side of the screen, the left wing, we see the Countermeasures Dispenser, and on the right wing, left-hand side of the screen, we see the jamming pod. That's the U-22A jamming pod. You always want to pick the /A. It's much more modern and effective. The only reason to pick the regular one is if you've got like time period restrictions going on in your mission. To begin with, first of all, I guess I'll fence in. And then I'm going to leave this knob set to F. I'm going to switch this one to A. That means that, that my jamming pod is warming up. And when it's warming up, this light will be lit. And when that light goes out, the jamming pod is warmed up. Once that happens, I'm going to switch this dial all the way over to E and this one all the way over to K. The different modes that are available with different dial selections here and here basically aren't modeled in DCS. One of them is an intel gathering mode that actually is kind of handy for scenario missions where you're trying to locate enemy air defenses. So you just run out on a recon mission, and then afterwards you get a debrief that in the form of a text file that shows you where the likely locations of SAM threats are. That's cool and all, but that's once again sort of a scenario mission, and not something we're going to cover in here because it's very, very specific. The important thing to remember is that when it's on 0 and F, it's turned off. When it's on A and F, it's warming up. And when it's done warming up, you switch it to E and K. And it will not emit without provocation. Like it stays quiet and dark until it detects that you're being locked up, and then it tries to break that lock by sending out jamming energy. Now, while we're waiting for that to warm up, let's take a look at the Rwr settings. This is off. This is just lights, and this is lights and sound. There aren't any radar threats present at the moment, but I'm still going to keep this one just on lights so that it doesn't start beeping over top of me, because it makes some pretty annoying noises, and I'm not flying towards any threats right now, at least not directly towards. Yeah, there's plenty of distance. So, down here we have some countermeasure dispenser settings. Now, let's start by assuming you have 2 countermeasures pods and no jammer. Mode 1 is rapid release. That'll release 1 bit of chaff per second from each pod, so long as you've got it set to RF or R. R is chaff, F is flares. So only the quick release button can dispense flares, and if you set it all the way to F, the programs won't dispense any chaff. So I find it's best to leave it set to RF, and that way the quick release button is your flares button, and the other modes are basically chaff dispensing, and you can get it to happen automatically. You can do it manually if you want, but you can get it to happen automatically. We're going to cover the manual modes first. 1 is rapid release, 1 puff per second from both pods if you have 2 pods. Mode 1 will last for about 90 seconds before it runs out of chaff. Mode 2 will dispense at a somewhat slower rate, and it'll last for about 3.5 minutes before it runs dry. And mode 3 is the slowest of them all, and that will last for 8 minutes, kicking chaff out of both pods. Now, if you put this to 0 and this to 4, it does mode 3, the speed of mode 3, except first it empties the left pod, then it empties the right pod. And so that means that you can have up to 16 minutes of chaff dispensing. Most of the time that's not used. Now the A mode is for automatic chaff dispensing. It's for basically if you get locked up, then it'll start dispensing chaff automatically for you. Now I see the light has gone out here, so we're going to crank the dials all the way over to E and K. and it says Motwerk there, and that means the pod is ready to go. It's warmed up, and when this light starts blinking, that means it's actively jamming. But it'll only actively jam if it's trying to break a lock that's been made. Now, before we test that out, I'm going to show you what the manual programs do. We're going to start with mode 1. Now, this is your Countermeasures dispensing switch. One right click moves it into the interval, where it stays for 6 seconds, and then it snaps back to off. And then 2 right clicks puts it forward into constant, where it just goes until the pod is empty. I am going to right click it once to put it into interval mode, and then I'm going to switch to an external view so you can watch the chaff come out. 4, 5, 6, and that's it. And it snaps back. And now we're going to do mode 2, same deal. And that's it. 3 puffs instead of 6, and it snaps back. Number 3, we'll be lucky to get 2 out. Yeah, I think it just kicks the 1 out. So that switch is not terribly useful in mode 3. The other one that you can do is quick release. It's a button on the throttle, so you actually have to bind it. Real quick, we'll just go there. It is fast countermeasures dispense. And so what that looks like is this. Chaff and flares, remember? And it keeps going until I press it again. I just pressed it again. So that's it, no more. Alright, now let's take a look at a jamming situation. We are going to turn towards our first waypoint, which is where a group of hostile destroyers were. They've probably moved on from there, but it'll give us a ballpark area. I know they were moving east, so I'm going to come a little bit east of the waypoint. I see I'm at 400 meters. I'm going to bring that down to 300 because 300 is the ideal radar range, or ideal radar altitude. And I'm going to put this thing over into linear. And I'm going to crank up the range all the way. And as you can see, it's not quite scanning all the way out. So I'm going to use the radar elevation button to bump up the elevation. And now it looks like it's scanning the whole way. It also looks like I'm getting a jamming pattern pretty much straight ahead. I'm going to switch it back to linear now, or pardon me, logarithmic. And now I've got actually a pretty decent idea of where the ships are. Come on. Sometimes it takes a few sweeps before they become clear in the middle of all that jamming crap. I think I'm seeing them right about here. They're tough to make out because they're really jamming the hell out of me. But in any event, I'm going to switch this baby over to automatic. And they're jamming me, but I'm not jamming them because this light is still solid. But we are heading directly towards them because I updated the waypoint. They are a little bit hard to see. They're moving right to left on my screen, eastward. See how sometimes they're a little bit more clear than they are at other times? I don't know if YouTube's video compression is going to fuck that up, but I see some distinct dots. They're just hard to distinguish from the rest. Anyway, as we approach these destroyers, they're definitely gonna start targeting us. So we're now 60 kilometers from the destroyer group. I'm gonna put this back on to lights and sounds. because we are detecting something just a little bit on the left front lobe there. Oh, it's trying to lock us up, and so we're getting some flicker on the Muttwerk light. The lower tone is the search radar. The higher tone is, if I'm not mistaken, the tracking radar. It hasn't locked onto us yet, but I think it's trying. I'm just gonna update my fix. We're flying right at them, and they're only about 60 kilometers away at this point. Aha! Oh, crap, I forgot something. You gotta flip this forward to constant. Now we're being locked up, and there it goes. It's automatically dispensing chaff, and it will keep dispensing chaff at that rate until the lock is broken. Another thing about the jamming pod, oh boy, you can really see that thing. I've got dot labels turned on so we can see the missiles coming towards us. Another thing about the jamming pod is it only operates in the forward quadrant. Aha! Lost lock. Self-destructed. So you have to be pointed like pretty much right at something for the jamming to do anything. Haha! Lost lock again. Self-destructed. Look how close those guys are. We can get really close if we've got some jamming going on. They are at like 20 kilometers. I mean, that's maverick range. Let's see how close we can get. Come on! Hit me! Oh, this one's actually going to hit me. This is no bueno. This is no bueno. And that's the ball game. So we'll try and roll it over so that we can punch out. Oh, nope. Second missile gotcha. But that is a lot closer than you can generally get to destroyers like that. And that is the, pardon me, that is the Countermeasures and ECM guide. You can put it in automatic mode. You can, and you put the switch forward on the left to constant, and that'll basically take care of your chaff dispensing. And until you get into their burn-through range, that jammer does a damn fine job of making missiles lose their lock on you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.